Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Pan, and I am the Artistic Director of Collaborative Arts Institute of Chicago. And welcome to tonight's episode of Heard Over the Piano, CAIC's online discussion series. Please let us know if you have any technical difficulties. Just throw those in the Facebook comments, and we will do our best to address those as they occur. That's the magic of live things during these times. And please let us know also in the comments if you have any questions for our guests tonight. Just type them in there and I will make sure that they get asked of them. So without further ado, please welcome tonight's guests, Baritone Tyler Duncan and pianist Erika Switzer. You guys can join me. Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
Nick.
I'm Tyler, and that's Erika, just in case
Any confusion?
any confusion.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, you bet.
How are you guys doing?
We're good. It's Thursday. It is around the 7th week of the semester at Bard College, and I think we're all ready for June. Are we almost there? Have
I
we
mean,
made it?
Almost.
Almost. Almost there. Yeah. No, we're good. We're healthy. We're vaccinated.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine brought over a giant wood chopping block. So I went and I chopped wood outside for half an hour today. Very, it was quite,
When you live in the woods.
yeah, it was
Hey,
lovely to do.
You're embracing the beauty of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And splitting wood.
So the last time we saw you guys was in 2018, I think, right? You guys were with CAIC for the Collaborative Works Festival, which was, we called it The Song is Drama. We were doing song cycles. I think you guys, Erika, you and I did a Schubert song, and you guys did Songs of Travel. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also the Brahms.
Magalona.
Yeah, Die Schöne Magalona. Yeah.
I
That
remember
was a treat.
it was a treat for everybody. I mean, no one ever does that Brahms cycle, and they're meaty and delicious. And so it was really, we felt luxurious to have you guys there, especially because you guys have done it more than once, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have. And, you put a lot of time into a piece like that to get to know it. So to get to perform it a few times is definitely a great reward. But you guys have an amazing audience there also. Great venues and such an amazing team. Yeah. Oh, man. I want to go back.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to remedy that. Yes, no. We're going to have you back as soon as possible.
Indeed. Yeah, and each one of those Brahms songs is I mean, as you know, doing Brahms songs, it's never just a Brahms song. It seems like it's 3 or 4 songs in one. So it just, they just
multiply.
They multiply.
Instead of 15, it's actually 45 songs.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Like going to Costco. Mm-hmm. You're buying in bulk.
Yes.
So you guys are a husband and wife team. And, can you just tell us, let's start off pretty basically. Can you guys tell us, a little bit about your career trajectories and also maybe fit in there how you met and were drawn together and began this fruitful partnership that is both musical and personal?
Yeah. Where to start?
Yeah. I was going to be a jazz singer. So from high school, I went into community college and was doing a jazz program, playing trombone, singing in jazz choir. But there was a teacher there who some friends of mine were with, and he was doing classical, and I had sung in choirs and stuff. And so he introduced me to my first, Wolf song was one of the first things I sang with him. And I just totally something clicked. I fell in love with it and just wanted to sing a little bit more classical music. So I transferred to the University of British Columbia. And there, the singers are very fortunate there that they are always paired with a pianist who is also a student. And one of my best friends, my best friend, John, he went to high school with this girl named Erika Switzer and said, well, Erika is probably going to play for me. Why don't I ask if she can also play for you? And
yeah. So that it was a requirement for pianists. It's not something that I was necessarily looking for, but I was definitely curious about once that was something that I needed to start doing. And to be paired with this kind of singer, you know, as my first experience of working with a voice, learning how to breathe, exploring poetry. I mean, I was pretty lucky.
Yeah. And I
And it
was super
was,
cool. I was like, "Hi, I'm Tyler. Would you come play with me, please, 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 please?" Ah. I was really cool about it.
he was pretty
Yeah.
energetic.
Yeah.
Um, but it was, I don't know, it revealed a whole world of music that I didn't know I was missing, and that actually made a lot more sense to me on many levels than being a solo pianist. So basically, that was my entrance, and it just ended up being my path
Mhm.
forward,
Wow. So Tyler was your song gateway drug, basically.
pretty much. Yep.
Yeah. We discovered all these wonderful things together. You know, we did the Beethoven Andi Geliebte was, and some Schubert songs. They were some of the first things we did together, and to find that connection together musically, but also find the connection to that repertoire really was the catalyst to us going to do summer programs together and meeting Ellie Ameling and deciding to move to Germany for, you know, we were there for 7 years. We lived in Germany and got to study with any great leader singer we could study with. We went to try and work with them a little bit. So the names of the people we worked with, it was just yeah, it was amazing. That was
So
very succinct.
did you meet and encounter Ellie Ameling in a master class, or was she out teaching, or?
Yeah, she was doing a class at Britton Piers. That was the first time that we met her. And we had a really great experience when we were there. And she, the following summer, was teaching in two other locations, and she invited us to apply to both of those programs. So then we went to the south of France and worked with her there, and we went to Baden by Wien, the Schubert Institute, and worked with her and many other teachers there. One of those other teachers was Helmut Deutsch, who became my teacher in Munich. And that's so when we moved to Germany, it was for me to study with him. And Tyler was studying in the town next door in Augsburg. And that was our, yeah, we stayed 7 years until it was enough, I think. And then we found our way to New York. And we've been in the New York area ever since.
Wow, it's quite the journey. And I mean, did you speak German before you went over?
No.
Could order beer and bread. That was about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was exhausting because when you learn a new language, it takes a lot of energy, right? But when you're thrown into another language and another culture, it takes a long time. And you know, Germany was an amazing place, and we made some amazing friends, but it takes a long time to incorporate yourself into a new culture. And so we were really lucky we had each other. And we were also really lucky that there were a lot of Americans and Canadians in the town we were living and in my singing studio. So we had a little family there,
Mm.
which is
Yeah.
great. And so many of those people we're still singing with and performing with, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I also had the best class schedule when I was a student in Munich. I had 2 lessons a week, and I played for 2 voice lessons a week.
That sounds so
That
luxurious.
that was the whole week. So actually, the rest of the time, you know, we could practice, learn German, buy groceries, figure out how to get a bank account. You know, like it. So it was really you can learn a lot when you're not constantly being like force fed an education.
Hmm.
So that was fantastic.
I'm kind of feeling that about this moment right now, actually. I mean, you know, normally we're like running from thing to thing, right? I mean, we're
Yeah.
privileged to be able to do that, but normally we are. And it's funny how when you have time on your hands, you can actually learn more in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a very educational time, to
Yeah.
say the least.
Yeah.
So when you got back to New York, was there more studies, or did you just kind of jump right into professional life?
Yeah, I specifically came to do my doctorate. I was at Juilliard with Margot Garrett and Jonathan Feldman, and had a really great experience there. Um, Tyler was freelancing, so you were
Yeah.
sometimes in Germany still after that, and sometimes in Canada performing. And yeah, so we were in New York City for 5-6 years, and then I started teaching at Bard College, and we've been living near Bard College now for 7 years.
Yeah.
Time flies.
It does fly. I mean, I feel like that was just yesterday. That's wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think, Erika, did we meet for the first time at Bard?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Was it the Chavez year, or was it the Schubert year?
It might have been the Schubert year. I feel like we did something both summers
Yes.
together, but maybe
Were
I
you
make
in the Schubert ensembles?
No, I did like oh, you know what? Maybe it wasn't the Schubert year. Maybe it was the Chavez year, because the Schubert year, I'm not sure. I sang one song. They gave me An die Musik with somebody else. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is the one song you're going to like. Okay, no pressure.
It's a good song.
It's just the anthem of all Schubert and all song. Then I remember, I think I did the operas, the Schubert operas. There was a Schubert.
Yeah.
There was an opera about Schubert, and then there was the one opera by Schubert, which was
the Fierabras.
No, not that one. The other opera by Schubert. It's the one act thing, Rosamund or something. I can't even remember the name of it.
Rosamunde.
Like, I have erased it from my memory, which is horrible. It
Oh.
was a lovely experience. I loved being there. I always love being at Bard, but I just don't remember the piece very much. And then, Tyler, did we meet at Oregon Bach? Or
we met at Oregon Bach. Your first year at Oregon Bach was also, I believe, my first year at Oregon Bach. It was the first year that Matt Halls was there as sort of like trying out for the
job.
Yes.
And yeah, so interesting. That's wow. That all just feels like just yesterday, but it is not. It is not. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes.
So so you enter the professional world, and then, Erika, I would love for you to talk about Sparks and Wiry Cries. I mean, please explain for our lovely audience what it is, but also,
do that.
because it's a very multi-pronged and imaginative and innovative thing. But also, where did the inspiration for that come? And, where does that fit into your timeline?
It started in New York City. So Martha Guth, who's a wonderful soprano and a very close friend of mine, she was also in Germany. She's coincidentally also from Vancouver, although I never knew her there. We met when we were both studying and living in Augsburg. And she and I did, a bunch of competitions together, had some really memorable experiences. And then we both ended up in New York City around the same time. And she's got amazing ideas. And one of those great ideas came in the form of a question, hey, do you want to start a podcast? And I was like, yeah, what do you do on a podcast? What's that? And we started doing this just like super homemade. I think Tyler even made some sound effects in some of the early ones that we've probably deleted so no one can hear them ever again. But we experimented. We shared music that was recorded by friends of ours, and we talked about the poetry, and it was just super nerdy fun. And as that grew, we decided we wanted a home for it. So we got money from the Canada Council. They helped us build a website. And then we started sharing articles and interviews, written stuff, and then Martha started presenting some concerts through the Casement Fund in New York. And eventually that just became part under our own umbrella. So it became what we call now the Song Slam Festival. And so that, I think that goes back from 2009. So 12 years later, we have, I think what we're kind of known for now are our Song Slam events. So the Song Slam is a competition for composer performer teams, and they premiere a song, and there's usually a dozen new songs in an evening, and the audience votes, and the prizes are awarded by it was pre-pandemic. We did this with pieces of paper, and people would vote, and then we'd count the ballots. And they've been incredibly energizing events. You just see that audiences love to be involved in that way, like to get to have a say in the outcome. They love to support their friends. They love to I don't know, there's something about that creation process when you really bring everyone in together that's been really magical. So those events have started happening around this country and across Canada and even in Europe, and we're really proud of having kind of brought something to this world that there wasn't anything like it before. So that's been super exciting. And then also as part of our festival, we do some commissioning, and that's the part that for me anyways relates back to when we lived in Germany, the experience of being there and being with this music that we had adored, that took us there in the first place. We found that it has a relevance there, partly because of it being, it's German music in Germany, poetry in Germany, right? So there's no translation required. Also, maybe a more deep understanding of, or memory, like cultural memory of that poetry. And when you're here, people appreciate the music, and some people have the education to be able to contextualize it themselves as listeners, but not everyone does, and not everyone should have to. And so what we became really interested in was how to capture our time now in a way that doesn't require anyone to study history necessarily, but to hear the language of composers living today telling the stories that are happening right now. We wanted that immediacy. And so that's really what Sparks is about. And I find it very moving. I don't know, am I talking too much? I guess
No.
that there's this amazing Schubert song, Memnon. I think it's my favorite. They're all my favorite, but it's my favorite, I think, because isn't it D flat major? I don't know. It's like so many flats, and just the color of it is really. I have a doctorate in music, by the way, and I'm like guessing at numbers of flats in a song, but whatever. It is a really special color for a Schubert song, but here's the thing: is that the poem is about this like statue, ancient Greek statue, that once a day, it's allowed to like say something briefly. And this is it's like actually just the heat of the sun warms up this old statue and it creaks, and that's like, so it's considered like that's speaking, right? So it's just a natural phenomenon basically at work, but it became like this symbol of the poet who was living in a very repressed society in Vienna at the time, where books were being burned and there were all kinds of political limits on what one could say and not say. And so he was comparing his life. He had to work as a censor, this poet, like that was his day job. And then his like evenings, he would in secret with his friends speak poems. And so he saw in this like natural phenomenon with the statue that creaks once a day, he saw his freedom in this, in these flashes in the evening. And I just thought, like, that's an amazing song. That's a really, really amazing song to talk about, and to talk about how hard it is to tell our truth sometimes. And so that's why I wanted songs from our here and now that enabled us to do the same thing.
That's amazing. I mean, it's, when we talk about Schubert, and it's often we're talking about how all of this stuff was born in people's living rooms, and like everybody was singing these songs, everybody from amateurs to, great singers and great pianists to also, again, amateurs. And that's how this music got its life, and that kind of immediacy. But the other aspect of it that I feel like we don't talk about enough, that I love that you're discussing, is this idea that, it's the equivalent of like going to Margaret Atwood or Hanya Yanagihara or something and saying, write a text for me and I'm going to set your text to music. And that kind of immediacy about now and not needing to do that jump as a listener or as a performer, about trying to time travel,
Yeah.
that's something that's really unique and special. And it's amazing that you've created this platform that spawns so much creativity and innovation in this art form right now, and in such a fun way. I mean, the idea of
So
a
fun.
contest, and everybody gets to vote. Like,
It's so fun.
that's so
Yeah.
And
exciting.
you've started publishing some of the songs, yeah, as well.
We have, yeah. Well, we have one songbook out through New Music Shelf, and that has, I think, a dozen songs, 10 or 12, from past winners of Song Slam events, or songs that we especially enjoyed. And so those are published, and we hope to continue doing that in the future. But so many of the composers are also able to self-publish these days. So it's always great to just, if you hear a song you like, to go to the website and order it there, because that's
Mhm.
that's I think it's tough. It's a tough world to sell these scores, but it's a great thing to do to support artists.
Mhm.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And as a singer, isn't it amazing when you find composers who want to write for you, but also you find composers that know your voice so well that when you commission something, it's going to be it's just going to fit, right? Isn't that an amazing feeling when you
Mm.
know a composer and they really just they get you?
Yeah, those relationships are so important.
They really are. They really are. And I think I mean, I hope it is good for the, rewarding for them too.
Yeah.
It must feel in a way a relief to know who it is that you're writing, to know the person you're writing for well, so you don't have to constantly stress about,
Mhm.
are they going to be comfortable, and can we actually get away with X, Y, and Z? And so you guys still persevered with the Song Slam Festival despite this
The thing.
the thing.
Yeah, we did. I'm still amazed, actually, because a year ago we did not know how to put on a virtual festival. And Song Slams, like I said, had only happened with pencil and paper and people in concert halls, and yet we were able, with the help of some really fantastic people, to put it together. And so in November, we recorded the 12 competitors in New York City, just a window when things weren't too bad, and with tons of safety precautions, and that was really great because it meant that everyone who recorded had the same backdrop, the same audio quality, right, even playing field,
Right.
and then we kind of got those all ready, and in January, for 12 days, we had the videos available and people could vote. And the money that was raised through voting is to support our mission going forward, which is amazing. And we also, of course, awarded prizes to the top 3 teams, and commissioned with a juried prize, commissioned Rachel DeVore Fogarty, who's just amazing. And it was a big success. So I think we're thinking about, for next year, I mean, hopefully there'll be some live element possible, but I think we reached so many more people because of the virtual reality that we want to keep doing that. So we have to find the right mixture.
Yeah,
But it was very encouraging.
it seems like a hybrid model for our art form
Mhm.
is going to be a useful
Yeah.
thing, because it helps us preserve the
think so.
intimacy that's required, but also
Yeah.
maybe reach more people. So
And to
you,
have, and I was just
no,
gonna say, also the documentation, right?
yes,
We know what's happened. You can listen again and again if you want to, and that's a fantastic thing too. I mean, the first time you hear any piece of music, you're only catching the surface.
right.
You need that second, third hearing to deepen the relationship with the piece. So I think we all win when we have that documentation now.
Gives you a chance to chew, so you can really savor and meditate.
Mhm.
You shared a link with me, so I'm going to put this in the chat, but why don't you tell everybody what it is?
This is the Sparks link, right?
Yes, this is the Sparks link.
So
Ramadan 20 versus COVID-19.
yeah. So Jessica Care-Moore, an amazing poet from Detroit, wrote this piece right on the first day of Ramadan, and she's talking about how life just continues. It's a pandemic. Babies are being born anyway. Our stories continue, through all of the layers of everything that we've experienced in the past year, including violence and including, really a lot of social unrest. And Martha knew Jessica from a project many years ago, and they'd been looking for something to work at. And so when we had this commission coming up, and the question came, what do you want to share with us? When this poem appeared, we were just like, our minds were blown. It was exactly, what we believe in, which is that relevance, that moment of now. And so she sent the poem on to Andrew Stanland, who we've known for a long time. He's a Canadian composer. He teaches at MUN at Memorial University in Newfoundland. And he's got an amazing way with sound. He's got such a sensitive ear for building blocks of sound and resonance in instruments. And he's a guy who sends out a questionnaire to a singer before he starts to write. It says, what are your superpowers? What can you do that other people can't do? Where's the sweet spot in your voice? What do you wish you got to sing more often that you don't get to sing enough of? What should I avoid? What do you hate doing? And so he's got such a great heart for writing for performers too. In any case, he put together this incredible, basically meditation on the text, and then I recorded the piano part alone at Bard, video and audio, and just really did my best to imagine what LaToya might need without knowing, and she digested my recording and she sang her part over top, and then it was all brought together with video editing, Matthew Principe and Neville Breathwaite, and they put together this amazing thing, putting photography and overlaying Jessica reading her poem and the piano and the voice all blended together. So this incredibly powerful piece came together again in a way that we couldn't have imagined. We were even supposed to record it in person in November, but with LaToya being in North Carolina and me up here and Jessica in Detroit, it just didn't seem responsible at that point to have people traveling. So I think what we ended up with, though, is I'm just so glad that it ended up being what it had to be.
Well, I hope everybody enjoys watching that when you have a chance later. Link is in the comments. So you guys also, you've been making good use of your time. You just also released an album last fall. It is called English Songs à la Française, something. Is that what it? Yes, I got the title right.
Too much glare. There we go.
Placement.
There we are. This was Tyler before the pandemic shaved
the pandemic
head.
haircut.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to get a haircut again. Oh my God. I'm going tomorrow, actually. I'm so excited. They finally reopened salons here. Sorry, we're not going to talk about my hair. We're going to talk about your album.
It's beautiful hair.
Thank you.
I wish I had that kind of thickness.
You're a charmer. So,
well, we did record this before the pandemic started.
Yeah.
This was last January, a year ago. And yeah, so this CD was a long time in the making.
Mm.
We, I'm talking a lot.
So we had Erika knows the French baritone Francois Leroux quite well and has played for him a few times. And we went to Nantes, no, not Nantes. What's it called?
Tours,
the same thing. So we went to Tours, France, to his Poulenc Academy, and it's in the wine country there, the Loire Valley, where Poulenc lived, and so you do some master classes and concerts and stuff with him. And he handed us a song, "The Cherry Tree Farm," composed by Camille Saint-Saëns. And we're like, wait, this is it's like a little English ditty, a perfectly set English ditty by a French composer, and he's like, yes, there's a few songs by in English by French composers. And so we just started going on a we were just being detectives trying to find these things. So we found a really beautiful cycle by Reynaldo Hahn, and then Gounod wrote a
bunch, yeah,
whole bunch of English songs while he was in exile from the war. And we found some by Massenet and Roussel, Ravel, and we just put this song program together, and then he invited us back to France, and we did a recital of it at the Hotel de Ville in Tours, and it a critic from Le Monde said, you know what, this would be an amazing album. And so we thought, oh, okay,
great
it's
idea.
a great idea. And that
then,
was
like 10 years later.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Finally, here it is.
Well, congratulations.
It's a beautiful program. We really, really love the music. Actually, on one of the videos that we sent in the link, you can find examples of the Gounod, the recital that we did for Early Music Vancouver. The video, you'll find some.
I will share that link right now. Which is actually probably going to be about 20 seconds early for Facebook because of the delay, but still, modern technology.
Indeed.
It's so interesting. I know of British composers coming to study in France, and so therefore they wrote French song. I mean, there's Britten and there's Vaughan Williams, but it's so, I would never have realized that the reverse, I mean, like it went both ways, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we didn't know beforehand either. I mean, I think we'd come across Poulenc's Fancy. This one seems to pop up for people more often than basically all the others, or Ravel's setting of the Robbie Burns poem, because it's in the anthologies, you know. But the other ones we wouldn't have known to find them.
And the Mio songs are these absolute
amazing
gems. They are amazing, so beautiful, so touching, but also quite challenging to learn. But they sound like ultra modern folk songs. They're really quite charming. And the stories behind so many of these songs are so interesting too. The story behind the Hahn, how he was in the trenches in World War One, and he met a Scotsman who showed him these beautiful Robert Louis Stevenson poems, and he set them. And
at the front.
So they're these beautiful children's songs, and they are just so touching and so innocent and so wonderful. And he wrote them on the front in World War One. It's just an amazing story.
That is incredible. And then you contrast that with like Debussy, who is the one song he wrote in World War One is like the most depressing, angry thing you've ever heard in your life. Like, what is it? The children who don't have Christmas anymore, or don't have the Christmas where children don't have homes, or whatever. I forget what the exact translation is, but it's like the whole thing sounds like machine gun fire, and they're like, mommy and daddy are dead. And I mean, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
Clearly one was trying to escape and one was not in a way.
Yeah.
What an extraordinary story.
Well, we all respond differently to that stress, right? As we're all learning. Yeah.
Of course. Wow. So are you going to take it live anywhere? I mean, we should bring you to Chicago and have you do it live at some point, but
happily. Yeah.
Anytime.
That's perfect.
I keep like offering people, we're going to make it happen.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it's an amazing program. You guys sound extraordinary on it. And, I think really great projects take time to cook sometimes. And I'm glad that you guys saw it through.
Yeah. That's true. They are definitely different songs now than they were 10 years ago, right? You mature, you live with them for a long time. They take turns, they become faster songs, they become slower songs, and I don't know, it's like a dance. You get better at it over time.
You get to peel back the onion layers of the poem and find new things that inspire you in the moment. And it's very interesting.
And a shout out to our friend in common, Marlon, our audio producer who put this together. He's fantastic.
He's amazing. I've known him for almost 20 years now because I met him in Houston when he would do the Houston Grand Opera broadcasts. We were always like checking him out. We were like, who's the hot guy who's recording? And then, like 20 years later, I can't believe I just said this documented for hi Marlon.
Yeah,
that's
right.
great.
We'll just
somebody call
edit
HR.
it out.
But yeah, no, it's crazy to think how long I've known him. I'm so glad because he's fantastic. I'm glad you guys enjoyed your experience with him.
Yeah, he lives up here. He lives just across the Hudson River, so he's our ice cream eating buddy.
We keep threatening. It hasn't happened yet, but someday he'll be our ice cream eating buddy.
You'll make it happen. He's persistent. So how, like, you've been up to a bunch of other things during this time too, right? Like there's this beautiful film of you singing on Die Ferne Geliebte and playing on Die Ferne Geliebte, and also the link that I just shared from Early Music Vancouver. Like, how are you negotiating this moment performance wise? And, you know, it seems to me from the outside, you guys have been up to some really exciting stuff, and there've been some really beautiful films that I will throw more links in here as we describe them.
Yeah.
But, you know, tell us about those activities and what it's been like, you know, aside from the Sparks and Wiry Cries stuff, you know.
Well, we really front loaded it. What happened is the pandemic hit, and the National Arts Centre of Canada, they came to the rescue very quickly. They just had a small stipend to have this thing called Canada Performs, and Erika and I did a recital. We asked if we could do a recital for them, and they said sure. And so we sat in our basement and did a 35 minute recital, just sitting here at the piano and with a terrible camera and a okay microphone and
a broken leg.
And I broke my leg on a trampoline as well.
A couple of days before the recording.
Pandemic surprise. Yeah, really, like 2 days before the recording, I broke my leg. So
yeah, I picked him up from the ER and I was like, so we're gonna postpone the recital, right? And he's like, no, why? I didn't break my throat. Okay, great.
So we did this recital in our basement on a very, bare bones everything, and it got a huge amount of views because people were, had so many concerts were canceled. So and I guess Matthew White, who was the former head of Early Music Vancouver, who was a very, very good countertenor, and but is now an arts administrator.
Excellent.
And he unbelievable. And he's just moved to Victoria Symphony. But anyway, he heard this recital and he said, well, are you guys going to be in Vancouver this summer? Because Early Music Vancouver is thinking of doing digital recitals. And they acquired a whole bunch of period instruments, like the one in this Early Music Vancouver video, which is a beautiful broadwood from 1870.
From Balmoral Castle, no less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Indeed.
The Queen's.
Yes. So he asked us if we were in Vancouver in the summer, and we kind of went, why? And so he asked us to curate a program, and so we thought, yeah, of course, right away. So we built a program about of songs that would have been performed on or around the time that this piano was built or in service. So we came up with Gounod, wrote songs like Exactly Then, and some Wolf songs, and beautiful Maud Valerie White, a wonderful British composer. Her songs are just gorgeous. And some of the songs at Travel, and it all would have been performed on that kind of instrument, maybe even that particular instrument, you never know. And then we reached out to Music on Main, because we were supposed to be doing a concert for them in Vancouver in November. And that was, of course, canceled because of the pandemic. And we said, well, we're doing these video things with Early Music Vancouver. Would you mind producing something as well? And they said yes. And what had happened was we commissioned, it's one of the links as well, we commissioned this song cycle from Jeffrey Ryan. He's a composer from British Columbia and writes absolutely beautiful for the voice. He check out his Emily Dickinson songs that are just gorgeous, and he's commissioning a new cycle for tenor actually. So I'll, as soon as I'll get him to get you the music for that. So wow, it's a long-winded story, isn't it? You can just go on and on in these things, can't you?
It's great.
So this cycle is absolutely beautiful. It's on poems by Jan Zwicky, and she's a poet from British Columbia, but she writes a lot about music. So one of the songs is actually called Schumann Fantasy, and another one is called Bill Evans. So there's these music-based poems that are, but they also evoke the nature and the beauty of the West Coast, which is something we miss dearly. So we got those two projects and we decided to hop in the car, and we drove all the way from Rhinebeck to New York to Naramata, British Columbia, and quarantined for 2 weeks in a cabin in the woods that is, well, it's in the wine country in the woods. So it's,
well done.
They delivered. Yeah. So we quarantined, and then we went to Vancouver and did these beautiful video projects that, I mean, it was multi-cameras with a crew and really, really wonderful sound engineer, Don Harder, who's a very good friend of ours. And we just loved it. It was such an amazing experience to get to be home on the West Coast and have these experiences. And it's the same camera crew actually did both videos, and the same sound crew, but they're both in the same concert hall, but one was in the lobby, which has all these windows showing out to the green forest behind, and then the other one is in the concert hall itself. It was such an amazing experience. And also to have the chance to drive across the country. When do you get to do that? So we drove across the States to get there. And then on the way home, we drove across Canada and came down through Ottawa back into New York. It was amazing.
Incredible.
2-month journey all in, but yeah, once in a lifetime kind of summer for sure. I mean, the silver lining has been that so many organizations have pivoted so gracefully and found, I know it's hard work and I know it's like a lot of head scratching and a lot of panicking too, but people have done amazing things and learned how to deliver performance in these really creative ways. And for us, you know, aside from the silver lining of getting to perform, is then to also have these videos to hold on to remember this moment and to share with friends and family. And I feel incredibly lucky to have had that opportunity. And I think, like you already said, this is showing us also a path into the future for the art form.
And we were very lucky that we're a married couple, so we didn't have to socially distance.
Yeah.
So, you know, there wasn't any weird camera shots of us, except we did a couple songs with a cellist, and that was a little trying to get us all in the same shot whilst being socially distanced was not easy. But
small price. I mean,
right,
to get to do it at all.
Wow.
So
it's funny. Somebody. I mean, we just had our Winter Leader Lounge broadcast last weekend, and yeah, I mean, it went really well and everybody loved it. But one person said, "Why is the baritone standing so far at the end of the piano?" And I was like, "Social distance." Like, he's not married to the pianist. Like, we needed to try and put some sort of distance between the two. Like,
we're super spreaders.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, we need to stop saying that
because
it leads to.
Yeah. It's also, and I'm not sure, I'm not convinced that that's totally true.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. Anyway, that's amazing. And so were there any favorite stops on your tour west and on your tour back? Did
Well,
you guys
well,
take 80,
yes.
80, 90 all the way across and then go up?
I don't remember the numbers. I mean, on the way there, we were driving pretty fast
Yeah.
because we, at that point, we didn't really know, it wasn't a tourist kind of
Right.
experience of crossing the country. It was like, long can you stay in a car for a day
Right.
And not touch
and not
anything
touch
or breathe.
anything? Exactly.
So yeah.
But we did stop at that magnificent national park, Painted
hmm
Rocks. That
So we
was
drove up basically.
stunning in Montana.
So in the first 2 days, we made it to uh, North Dakota.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So we drove New York
Yeah.
basically to Gary, Indiana, and then we drove from Gary all the way up through Fargo and halfway across North Dakota. Those were the first 2 days. So we just decided to get away from population as much as possible.
Mhm.
And at that point, the Montana and North Dakota and all those things, they weren't having high COVID numbers, but like we didn't know anything. We were sanitizing our hands all the time and really like being careful about where we stayed and
Mm,
interaction and everything. But
mm.
yeah,
But on the way back, we were in Ontario for like 3 days driving, and we got to stop at one of the Great Lakes, and it was just all rocks, and the water was completely crystal clear, and you could just see all these beautifully different colored rocks underneath the surface, and it was magical. It was really, I'm so glad we did it. I can't believe that our now 7-year-old son sat patiently in the car, 5 days heading west, 6 days heading east, and just kind of went along with it and thought it was kind of cool and loved going to get takeout, all the time.
mm,
So
yeah.
yeah, it was amazing.
That's incredible. Um, I'm gonna just put out there to anybody who's watching, if you have any questions, please again throw them in the comments as we're nearing this wrap up time. But I'm starting to like ending these little interviews with just this one question. I mean, so I'll pose it to both of you. But it's sort of a two-parter. How do you see art song and vocal recitals figuring into your lives moving forward after this? And also, why do you think song is important?
All right, you'll be way more eloquent than I will, so I'll go first. Um, we met with song, and it's been throughout our careers has been our connection, but also the for me, it's been the one most important thing because it's a direct connection to poetry. It's a direct connection to the people you are performing for, and it's a direct connection to the person you're sharing the stage with. It's a powerful art form, and um, if it is a powerful art form if you serve it well, if you are on the stage at all for any self-gratification or being a star on the stage, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. But if you invite the audience in to an embrace and invite them to go on the journey that you are about to go on with you, it becomes one of the most powerful things that people can experience together. And it tells a story and it evokes thought. And so today it's important because you get to, even if it's a Schubert song from a long time ago or a newly commissioned piece that you're premiering for the first time, it's the stories are relevant and can touch a person in a deep way. Your turn.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to answer that second question first, and just say what Tyler's alluding to as well, is the intimacy of the art form is spectacular. I mean, it's so each element has such intimacy. The poetry, of course, right? It's like that window into the soul, and it's never it's never bombastic. It's always at this point of connection between the words and the heart. And so and that keeps getting mirrored with each step. You add the composition onto that, you add the pianist and the singer dialogue onto that, and then you have that dialogue with the audience. And I think that it makes it incredibly both vulnerable, but also powerful, as Tyler said. So I think that's why it's important, is for that human connection. But where do I hope that it will go after this? I mean, I hope that huge foundations like Mellon Foundation start funding art song, right? Because all it needs is like a tiny fraction of the budgets of these much larger organizations to do unbelievably great things. And finding that funding would mean that we could just forget about this idea of that success is packing a hall, because that's not what it was ever meant to do. It was supposed to be this intimate experience, and I think that that's a huge disconnect if you start having to focus on how do I sell tickets, right? That's it makes it about something else entirely. It makes it about entertainment. Sometimes it makes it about the clothes that you put on to go digest that artistic experience. It makes, and so I want to see it be able to thrive in intimate spaces, and I want to see organizations have the support to do that, so that they don't have to worry about the things that shouldn't matter. Do you think that'll happen? Hey, Mellon Foundation, did you hear me?
Thank you for making my donation appeal for me today.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to take this opportunity to put our link in here. If you'd like to support this season's broadcasts, please do so at the following
Do
link.
it. Absolutely.
Thank you, Erika.
It's very important.
Yeah.
I really hear you on that, because it's like a drop in the bucket compared to what other organizations need in order to function, or other, like symphonic and opera and, theater. And the intimacy is important, especially in this, in our times. Like, I think one of the things that this moment has driven home is the importance of live interaction. It's miraculous that I can talk to you guys like this right now and see your beautiful faces. And I mean, I miss you so much. So it's great to be able to connect like this, but it's not the same as being in person in the place. And, I think for particularly classical music presenters in general, as an industry, we've been so sort of tentative about the digital and virtual realm. And it's partly because we're afraid that our audiences will just digest it all on their computers, and as opposed to buying a ticket to come through the front door and listen to it live and be a warm body in a seat. And I mean, that experience is irreplaceable, both for the performers and for the audience. And so, I think,
and sound is living, right? So through speakers, it's affects you in a certain way. But if you're in the room and you're, the vibrations of this giant beast here,
that's a piano,
and the vibrations of this giant beast here, it does make a difference. You really want to be there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's something biological that happens. I'm loving this right now. This is fantastic. I think I think we've reached our time. You guys are so wonderful. Thank you so much for being a part of the CAIC family, and also just, joining us for this little conversation today and taking the time out of your evening. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. We will be back next week at the same time. Our guests next week are baritone John Brancy and pianist Peter Dugan. So we look forward to catching up with them.
Bald baritone.
Yes, it's a festival of bald baritones. So please join us next week for that. And in the meantime, I think Facebook, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Have a wonderful evening, Facebook. And thank you, Erika and Tyler.
Thank you, Nick. Good night.
So good to see you.